Part 2. Becoming a great leader. 5 levels of leadership. To become a good team leader, all you have to do is constantly communicate with your team, set clear tasks, give proper feedback, and delegate. Also, you should listen to their needs and provide coach-like guidance when required. Simple, right? Well, not really. The above-mentioned tips are just quick fixes that can improve the functioning of your team in the short run, but they have no effect on you becoming a better team leader. Building yourself into an effective leader is a difficult, slow, and meticulous process, which requires both personal and your team's devotion. John Maxwell, in his 5 levels of leadership, describes the path a newly appointed leader has to take to become a good team leader. Level 1. Position. You achieve the first and lowest level of leadership simply by being placed in the position of power. There is nothing wrong with being in the position of power. However, relying solely on it to have your team follow you is counterproductive. When you start handling your team as a newly appointed team leader, they will have no trust in you or your leadership abilities. The first level is the starting level and a base for further improvement. You can start investing in your growth as a potential leader and use this time to prepare yourself for the next level. You can achieve this through prioritizing and diligence. Tip: how to know if you are a level 1 leader. Get an intern, a student, or someone who just wants to learn a thing or two about the job, and treat them no different than all the other members. If they start disobeying you or voicing their dissatisfaction with your leadership ability, you should think about adjusting your approach. Level 2. Permission. The next step toward becoming a good team leader is building strong relationships with your team members. Treating individuals as they have value will develop positive influence, trust, and respect. At level 2, your team will tacitly give you their permission to lead them. Members will follow not only because you are their supervisor, but because they genuinely like you as a person. When that happens, it is up to you to maintain that relationship with respect and consideration of your team's needs. Level 2 leaders are relational leaders. They listen closely, observe carefully, and are always learning. They also have a servant leader attitude, which has proven to be essential for the further advancement of leadership skills. Tip: a level 2 leader talk less and listen more, which is why some recommend the 70-20-10 conversational rule. You should spend 70% of your time listening to your team, 20% of time inquiring, with the just right amount of support, and 10% analyzing the information you've gathered. Summarize and sort the information, and then choose the appropriate course of action. Level 3. Production. You've built mutual trust with team members, and things seem to fall into place. Now, it is time to get things done. You know you've reached level 3 leadership when you start using your influence and credibility to motivate your team to produce results. You have quite a few notches under your belt now, and your team knows it. They will no longer follow you just because they like you. They follow because of your track record and credibility. At this point, the snowball effect occurs. Your previous accomplishments build upon themselves and become the base for further success. Morale will improve, projects will be completed properly and on time, and you will provide your team with a momentum to tackle every problem. Level 3 leaders shouldn't stop acting like level 2 leaders. You should remain the relational leader your team fell in love with, but also start using new level 3 strategies. Tip: use a combination of push and pull influence styles to make sure your team achieves results. Push style forces someone to take action using logical reasoning, threats, or rewards. Even though this approach brings fast results, it guarantees only short-term success and should be utilized only as a last resort. Pull style motivates someone to take action. This approach is effective if the leader wants to gain commitment and quality, but is slow at achieving results. Be wary though, as people can interpret insincere pull as a blatantly dishonest manipulation, which can bring tarnish your reputation. Level 4. People development. At this level, you already have a high-performing team that trusts you completely. Your primary goal as a leader now becomes reproduction, identifying and developing as many leaders as possible by investing in them and helping them grow. Furthermore, when you invest in new leaders, a bond of trust will be created between you and them. You will have an ally and someone you can always rely on. Successful people position themselves well. Successful leaders position other people well. John Maxwell. According to Maxwell, the key to being a successful level 4 leader is in 3 simple steps. Recruit well. The better the person you bring in, the higher the odds they will contribute to team success. Position well. Find out strengths of a potential leader and allow them to grow in that particular niche. Equip well. Provide leader with means to success through tutoring and training. Tip: Level 4 is all about developing as many leaders as possible. So train only those that will help others learn the same process. Usually, there are 4 steps to training and onboarding a new employee. Initial onboarding, mentoring and demonstrating how work process should be done. Allowing new employee to perform tasks themselves while monitoring and tutoring them. Enabling them to perform tasks themselves without supervision. However, a true level 4 leader will implement an additional 5th step. Require that the trainee transfers knowledge further. Once you manage to continuously develop leaders who can train other leaders, you can achieve 5th level. Level 5. Pinnacle. People follow pinnacle leaders because of who they are and what they represent. 5th level leaders are rare. A number of true level 5 leaders in the world is really small. You can only reach level 5 if you are willing to invest your life in the lives of others for the greater good of the company. It requires constant learning on a personal level and continuous focus on developing new leaders. Level 5 leaders develop level 5 organizations and have access to opportunities other leaders don't. They create legacy while their leadership earns a positive reputation. Consequently, pinnacle leaders often transcend their position, their organization, and sometimes their industry. They become the person everyone in the world turns to for guidance. Tip: If you find yourself at the 5th level of leadership, there is only one tip you need: always improve. There isn't always a new book to read and new technology to master, because a true leader knows they can never be all-knowing. Final words: just like with the case of team forming, your reputation among team members may vary. Some may consider you a level 4 leader, while others regard you as level 2. Naturally, newest members will feel loyalty for no other reason than your supervising position, but even that can change swiftly if they fall under the influence of their colleagues. So remember, always improve, always teach, always adapt. That is what makes a leader great. Daily habits of successful leaders. The most successful people in the business have 5 things in common. They have laser focus. They are excellent short and long-term organizers. They learn from their mistakes. They adapt easily. They take calculated risks. Also, they read a lot. But that is a story for another time. We have taken a look at daily habits leaders like Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg and analyzed some of their characteristics in order to find out the secrets behind their success. Maintain focus, like Steve Jobs. For the past 33 years, I have looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no, for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs used to spend his mornings in meetings with his product and management teams. Later in the day, he moved to Apple's design lab and collaborated with company's top designer, Johnny Ive. Evenings, however, were reserved for family and personal matters, as Jobs used to spend them with his wife and kids. Steve Jobs was a prime example of being optimized. He had a knack for prioritizing. According to Walter Isaacson, it was Jobs' focused vision that made Apple what it is today. In 1997, when Jobs returned to Apple, Apple was producing a lot of products, Macintosh computers, parts, and peripherals. After a Few hectic weeks of product review sessions, Jobs made a sudden decision to stop the entire process and make a revolutionary U-turn. He grabbed a marker and drew a 2x2 grid. Above the two columns, he wrote Consumer and Pro, while the rows were labeled words Desktop and Portable. At that moment, he told his team members to focus on 4 great products, one for each quadrant, and cancel the others. Even though many had disapproved of his decision, it turned out that by getting Apple to focus on making just 4 computers saved the company. Deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. That's true for companies, and it's true for products. Steve Jobs. At the same time, Jobs began taking his team of 100 carefully selected people on a retreat once a year. On the last day, he gathered them in a large conference room, placed himself in front of the whiteboard and asked, "What are the 10 things we should be doing next?" However, Jobs would write down each and every one, and then cross off ones he perceived dumb. After a long debate, the group would come up with a list of 10 suggestions. Then, Jobs would slash the bottom 7 and announce, "We can only do 3. His focus has led Jobs to be blatantly rude and brutal at times. His people would reach out to him with their legal, personal, or professional problems, asking for help or advice. If he didn't want to deal with it because he had other things on his mind, he would block them out completely. He wouldn't answer email or give you a response, only a blank stare. Every day Jobs would choose 4 or 5 things to focus on while neglecting everything else in the process. Learn from mistakes, like Bill Gates. Success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they cannot lose. It's fine to celebrate success, but it is more important to heed the lessons of failure. Bill Gates. The first thing you need to know about Bill Gates is that he likes his sleep, 7 hours a night, at least. He cannot give speeches or do any creative work if he doesn't get a good night's sleep. However, he starts each day the same, an hour on a treadmill, while watching educational DVDs. In the early 1970s, Bill Gates and Paul Allen started a company called Trafo Data, which read and analyzed data from roadway counters and created reports for traffic engineers. Trafo Data was the first mistake Bill Gates made and learned from. According to Paul Allen, the idea that fueled the company was good, but the business model failed as there was no demand. Trafo Data ended up with a total net loss of $3,500. Despite everything, it turned out that this experience was a great lesson for both founders, as it played a crucial role in the formation and success of Microsoft. As the company grew over the years, some mistakes were bound to happen. However, Gates' creativity, teamwork, and sufficient monetary stability allowed Microsoft to thrive and try new things, which contributed greatly to company's success. Our products were successful enough that even when we did make a mistake, when we hired a wrong person or organized things the wrong way, we were frank enough to ourselves to say, "This isn't working." And yet, my conservative balance sheet approach meant that for all the mistakes we made, we had a chance to learn from them and do different things. Bill Gates. Additionally, Gates is a big fan of feedback, or to be more precise, angry customer feedback, as he considers unhappy customers to be the greatest source of learning. He claims that companies' greatest source of growth can come from the people that will tell you what you need to hear and not just what you want to hear. In his case, Gates created a feedback loop where he gets world-class experts to tell him what he or his company is doing wrong. Every mistake is a lesson in disguise. Stay organized, like Elon Musk. I do love email. Wherever possible, I try to communicate asynchronously. I'm really good at email. Elon Musk. Elon Musk kicks off his day bright and early, rising at about 7 a.m. After 6 hours of sleep. He usually skips breakfast, but he never skips morning shower, as he considers it the best thinking time. Only then the actual work can start. Musk spends Mondays and Fridays at SpaceX in Los Angeles, while the other 3 days he spends at Tesla. His entire day is broken down into a series of 5-minute slots. To save time, he insists on having lunch during midday meetings. Also, he declines most phone calls and relies heavily on email. However, Musk often changes and uses an obscure email address to prevent inbox spamming. He has been known to work 85 to 100 hours a week, dividing working hours equally between SpaceX and Tesla. His reasoning is that working twice as hard as the usual 40-hour worker will give you twice the knowledge and twice the progress. However, Musk admits that being a business owner is not for everyone and that it requires a lot of sacrifice when it comes to work-life balance. Another symptom of Musk's high organizational capability is his tendency to remove inefficiencies. Basically, he strips everything that doesn't help him or his companies move forward. Such was the case with Tesla electric car. When Elon Musk decided to make world's first awesome electric car, he had no experience in the automotive industry. So, as a complete beginner, Musk started crowdsourcing feedback from friends and co-workers about electric cars. It turned out that problem was public perception. These cars were regarded as powerless and unreliable. So, Tesla had to be everything electric cars weren't: fast, sleek, and charged. By looking at what didn't work in electric cars, Musk removed the inefficiencies he witnessed in traditional automotive companies. The result was Model S, which was a hugely successful electric car. To top things off, he decided to invest into the Tesla's research and development rather than marketing, taking upon himself to become the spokesperson for the brand. Musk used his personal story as a launch pad for introducing Tesla while providing his team with additional resources to develop a superior product, constantly evolve and adapt, like Jeff Bezos. What's dangerous is not to evolve. Jeff Bezos starts his day between 7 and 8 a.m. and always spends at least 8 hours a night sleeping. Before heading to the office, he exercises on his treadmill while reading the morning newspapers. While at work, Bezos tries to avoid being in the office all day and tends to do a lot of his business remotely. During his free time, he reads a lot. In the past, however, he had to work long and hard to achieve his current success. Bezos left Wall Street and founded Amazon.com because he relied on something he calls regret minimization framework. The framework I found, which made the decision incredibly easy, was what I called, which only a nerd would call, a regret minimization framework. So I wanted to project myself forward to age 80 and say, okay, now I'm looking back on my life. I want to have minimized the number of regrets I have. I knew that when I was 80, I was not going to regret having tried this. I was not going to regret trying to participate in this thing called the internet that I thought was going to be a really big deal. I knew that if I failed, I wouldn't regret that, but I knew the one thing I might regret is not ever having tried. I knew that that would haunt me every day, and so, when I thought about it that way, it was an incredibly easy decision. Jeff Bezos. Over the years, Amazon became a powerful company with a net sales revenue of $136 billion in 2016. Its culture is based on firm leadership principles, which you can apply practically. Jeff Bezos proved his ability to adapt to any given situation once again in 2015, when New York Times published a controversial story about organizational culture in Amazon, announcing a new time of empathy at Amazon. 2 years later, out of the everlasting need to adapt and innovate, Bezos introduced his Day One philosophy to Amazon shareholders. He compares Day One at companies that are just discovering their potential, with Day Two companies. He defined Day Two as stasis, followed by irrelevance, decline, and death of the company. Staying in Day One requires you to experiment patiently, accept failures, plant seeds, protect saplings, and double down when you see customer delight. A customer-obsessed culture best creates the conditions where all of that can happen. In Day Two, you stop looking at outcomes and just make sure you're doing the process right. The outside world can push you into Day Two if you won't, or can embrace powerful trends quickly. If you fight them, you're probably fighting the future. Embrace them, and you have a tailwind. Jeff Bezos. Take risks, like Mark Zuckerberg. The biggest risk is not taking any risk. In the world that's changing really quickly, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking risks. Mark Zuckerberg. The first thing Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, does in the morning is check email, messages, and social networks. Afterwards, he spends about an hour working out. When he gets ready for work, Mark spends no time on trivial decisions, like what to wear. He always wears the same thing: jeans, a pair of sneakers, and a gray t-shirt. This approach helps him focus on more important things and reduces the number of decisions he has to make throughout the day. Zuckerberg usually works for 50 to 60 hours a week, and he tries to use that time proactively rather than reactively. The rest of his day is spent in reading. However, Mark did not become a leader just by playing it safe. He took risks when needed, and it paid off. The first time he took a big risk was at the time he was raising money for Facebook. Even though investors were lining up to hear Zuckerberg's proposals, he decided to shut them out. He refused phone calls, ignored messages, and canceled meetings to drive up demand. Eventually, 12 investors were ready to fund his site. No questions asked. The rest is history. Second risk Zuckerberg took was making the freshly launched Facebook available exclusively to students at Ivy League schools. In 2004, that made students at other colleges from all over the country want to become part of this exclusive club. This way, he made sure that supply is never larger than the demand. During his trip to Bogota, Colombia in 2015, Zuckerberg was asked about the exact moment he came up with the idea for Facebook. To everybody's astonishment, his answer was, "I don't think that's how the world works. Ideas typically do not just come to you. It's a lot of dots that you connect to make it so that you finally realize that you can potentially do something." Mark Zuckerberg. The third risk he took was not selling the company, despite numerous lucrative offers. Before Zuckerberg took Facebook public in 2012, he had many opportunities to sell the company. He stuck to his guns and believed in what he was doing. Now he is worth over $65 billion. To conclude, Zuckerberg's risk-taking attitude is perfectly summed up in his famous quote, "Done is better than perfect." He has determined that finishing something is more important than perfecting it, stating that one can always go back and improve on an existing project. However, doing your best is what counts. Many businesses are afraid to take a risk because they are so worried about making a mistake. Companies are set up so that people judge each other on failure. I am not going to get fired if we have a bad year or bad 5 years. I don't have to worry about making things look good if they're not. I can set up the company to create value. Mark Zuckerberg. All leadership theories. Leadership theories are categorized by aspect which is believed to define the leader. Great man theory. The idea. Individual is born with characteristics of a leader. According to this theory, an individual cannot become nor learn how to be a leader. Leaders are simply born that way. This means that you either are or aren't a leader. Factors such as your upbringing, education, and experience are only shaping your leadership abilities. They aren't responsible for making you a leader. This early theory of leadership studied the traits of great leaders, such as Gandhi, Lincoln, and Napoleon, and even though it had no scientific validity, it was important as the starting point for the understanding which human traits make great leaders. At the time, it was all about having a dominant personality, charm, courage, intelligence, persuasiveness, and aggressiveness. In one word, being charismatic. Trait theory. The idea. All leaders share common characteristics or traits. This theory focused on analyzing combinations of individuals' mental, physical, and social characteristics with the goal to determine if leaders share certain combinations: ambition and energy, honesty and integrity, self-confidence, intelligence, desire to lead, and job-relevant knowledge were all quite common among potential leaders. However, it turned out that none of these traits, nor any particular combination of them, can guarantee that a leader will be successful. The developer of the trait theory was Ralph Stockdale. He determined which traits and skills differentiate leaders from non-leaders. However, all of this turned out to be nothing more than a theory. Over the years, scientists have been trying to determine which specific characteristics make a leader. Unfortunately, all of them failed to provide us with any viable results. Behavioral theories. The idea, person's actions, not personal characteristics, determine if someone is a leader. Unlike trait theory, which focuses on what leaders are like, behavioral theories try to focus on what leaders do. This new perspective made it possible for someone without necessary traits to become a leader simply by acting like one. In other words, the behavioral theory claims that leaders are made and developed, not born. Lewin's framework. The idea, leader needs to know when to adapt a particular behavior. According to Kurt Lewin's research, conducted in the 1930s, there are three types of leaders. Autocratic leaders, they make decisions without consulting their team. Democratic leaders, they allow the team to provide input before deciding. Laissez-faire leaders, they don't interfere with team dynamics, and they allow members to make many decisions. Even though many leaders usually belong to a certain type, Lewin claims that the very best leaders have an ability to adapt. They can use many different behavioral styles and choose the right style, depending on the situation. Michigan Leadership Studies. The idea, employee-oriented leadership approach is better than production-oriented approach. This study identified two broad leadership styles: employee-oriented style, which focuses on interpersonal relations and needs of employees and accepts individual differences, and production-oriented style, which focuses on technical aspects of the job and accomplishing group goals, and regards workers as a means to an end. Also, this study determined the three critical characteristics of an effective leader. Relationship-oriented behavior. Effective leaders focused on the relationships with their subordinates and preferred a hands-off supervision rather than close control. Task-oriented behavior. Effective leaders carefully planned out the work and delegated tasks with challenging and achievable goals. Participative leadership. Effective leaders strive to build a cohesive, well-knit team rather than work with a set of individuals. Finally, studies concluded that an employee-oriented leadership, rather than the production-oriented, coupled with general instead of close supervision, led to better results. Ohio University Leadership Studies. Leadership Grid. The idea, leader must pay equal attention to both people and results. The model identified 5 leadership styles by their relative positions on the leadership grid. Previously known as the managerial grid, it relies on 2 behavioral dimensions: concern for production and concern for people. Impoverished style. 1. The leader is unconcerned for employee satisfaction and work deadlines. As a result, productivity and satisfaction within the organization drops. Produce or perish style. 9. The leader believes that efficiency is achieved through proper process organization and elimination of human factor wherever possible. This style increases the output in short run but has a higher labor turnover as a consequence. Middle-of-the-road style. 5. The leader tries to maintain a balance between company goals and needs of people. In this case, neither employee nor production needs are fully met. Country club style. 9. The leader provides employees with a friendly and comfortable environment, hoping it will motivate them to work harder. However, low focus on tasks usually hampers production. Team style. 9. The leader believes that commitment, trust, empowerment, and respect are the key elements in creating a team atmosphere, which will automatically result in high production and employee satisfaction. The leadership grid shows us that productivity suffers if manager focus on one area while neglecting the other. Transactional theories. The idea, leader enforces strict rules and requires obedience. According to these theories, there must be a structured hierarchy where each team member surrenders all independence and sovereignty to the leader. Punishment and reward approaches. The only way to motivate employees who are only expected to obey their leader. Their competence to accomplish tasks is irrelevant. Leader-member exchange, LMX, theory. The idea. Team members must prove their worth to the leader. The LMX theory focuses on the relationship that develops between leaders and members of their teams. All relationships go through 3 stages. Role-taking. When new team members join the group, the leader uses this time to assess their skills and abilities. Role-making. In this stage, the leader expects new members to work hard and be loyal and trustworthy as they get used to their new role. If members fulfill leaders' expectation, they become insiders. Otherwise, they become outsiders. Routinization. During this last phase, the leader establishes team routines. Team members who prove themselves in the past work even harder to maintain the favorable opinion of their leader. That will allow them to reap the benefits such as opportunities for growth and advancement. Transformational theories. The idea. Leaders transform followers through their inspirational nature and charismatic personalities. In its ideal form, transformational leadership creates positive change in the followers with the end goal of developing followers into leaders. It is all about enhancing motivation, morale, and employee performance by giving the team autonomy over specific jobs and the authority to make decisions. The emphasis is on cooperation, collective action, and long-range organizational goals, so the whole system is adjusted to place the community above an individual. Burns' transformational leadership theory. The idea. Leaders transform their followers through their inspirational nature and charismatic personalities. James McGregor Burns took a more philosophical approach to the theory of leadership and provided a foundation for transformational leadership theory. He claimed that transforming leadership occurs when leaders engage with their team in such a way that leaders and followers raise one another to higher levels of motivation and morality. Therefore, the crucial task of transformational leaders is raising followers' awareness and consciousness to higher levels of conduct and morality. Based transformational leadership theory. The idea. Transformational leader is considered stimulative, influential, and inspirational. Bernard M. Bass transformed their followers into leaders in 3 ways. By increasing their awareness of task importance and value. By getting them to focus on team or organizational goals, rather than their own. By activating their higher-order needs. Bass also suggested that the transformational leader has 4 main characteristics. Individualized consideration. Emphasis is on an employee needs. The leader acts as a role model or a teacher to attract and motivate followers. Intellectual stimulation. The leader seeks ideas and suggestions from the team. Also, they challenge the prevailing order with innovations. Inspirational motivation. The leader provides their team with a reason and purpose behind each task and their purpose in the organization. Idealized influence. The leader becomes a full-fledged role model, honest, trustworthy, proud, and enthusiastic. Groups led by a transformational leader tend to be successful and loyal. Also, they care deeply about the group's ability to accomplish goals. Leadership Participation Inventory, LPI. The idea. Leadership is based on 5 specific behaviors. This theory focuses on a question. Which characteristics should a leader possess so that other leaders follow them? According to its authors Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner, anyone can become a leader if they adopt the 5 practices or behavior. Model the way. The leader establishes company culture. They create standards of excellence and then set an example for others to follow. Inspire a shared vision. The leader has a clear and ideal vision of what the organization can become. Through charisma, they gain followers and focus towards fulfilling the vision. Challenge the process. The leader changes the status quo whenever they can. They constantly innovate, take risks, and learn from their mistakes. Enable others to act. The leader fosters collaboration and builds spirited teams, creating an atmosphere of human dignity in the process. Encourage the heart. The leader always recognizes individual contributions and rewards their team accordingly. Unlike some other theories, this one had scientific proof to back it up. It was measured and validated by one of the most widely used leadership assessment instruments in the world, the Leadership Practices Inventory, LPI. Contingency theories. The idea, leadership style should be based on and adapted to specific situation. While the trait and behavior theories help us understand leadership, there is one component missing: the environment and the external factors in which leaders exist. According to the contingency theory, there is no single, proper style of leadership. The style should adapt to the ever-shifting conditions of the business world as external factors and environment change. So, should leaders approach Fiedler's contingency theory? The idea, choose the best leader for a given situation and change them when required. According to this theory, every leader has its own, unchangeable leadership style. Their effectiveness varies from situation to situation and is determined by two factors: leadership style and situational favorableness. A company should use least preferred coworker, LPC, scale to identify and measure leadership style. By profiling a person they wouldn't like to work with, one can determine if they are a task-oriented leader with lower LPC score or a relationship-oriented leader, higher LPC score. Different leaders will shine in different situations. Next, it is time to determine this situational favorableness, which depends on three factors. Leader-member relations. This is the level of trust and confidence the team has in its leader. Task structure. This should determine if the task at hand is clear and structured or vague and unstructured. Leader's position power. This is the amount of power a leader has to direct the group and provide reward and punishment. By cross-referencing leadership style and situational favorableness, company can always choose the right leader for any given situation, according to theory. In practice, it is not as simple as it seems. Some even claim that Fiedler's contingency model is academic acrobatics and has no practical application in the real world of management. Hersey Blanchard's situational leadership theory. The idea, adapt leadership style according to maturity of your followers. Follower maturity is determined by the ability and confidence of the group they are attempting to lead. According to this model, there are 4 leadership styles: delegating style, low task, low relationship style. The leader allows the group to take responsibility for task decisions. Participating style, low task, high relationship style. Everyone shares ideas and decisions. Selling style, high task, high relationship style. The leader tries to sell his ideas by explaining tasks persuasively. Telling style, high task, low relationship style. The leader gives explicit directions and supervises work closely. So if follower maturity is high, the model suggests a delegating style of leadership where the leader has to provide minimal guidance. However, if there is low maturity within the group, the leader should opt for telling style. Path goal theory. The idea, get things done no matter the obstacle. To achieve desired goals, the leader should clarify the path, remove all roadblocks, and increase rewards along the route. They can use any means necessary to motivate their team. Command, reward, and punish. Take suggestions from the group, or sugarcoat the task. All that matters is reaching the desired goal. Depending on the situation, the original path goal theory identifies 4 types of leader behavior. Directive path goal, clarifying behavior. The leader gives clear directions on how tasks should be done. Achievement-oriented behavior. The leader sets challenging goals for employees and expects top-notch performance, but has confidence in their ability. Participative behavior. The leader consults employees and asks for their suggestions before making a decision. Supportive behavior. The leader is concerned for their Team psychological well-being. According to the path-goal theory, leaders should be flexible and change their style by recognizing and adapting to characteristics of their team as well as external conditions. Decision-making model of leadership. The idea, when in doubt, follow the map. According to this theory, the leader first needs to estimate a situation and assess how it will affect the group. Afterwards, he should determine how much the team will support the effort and then finally choose a style of leading. There is a mechanical process with 7 questions and decision points that makes a choice a lot easier. Afterward, the leader chooses one of the 5 leadership styles, depending on a situation. Autocratic, A1. The leader makes a decision on their own, using the information already available. Autocratic, A2. The leader will consult group members to gain more information and then make a decision. They may choose to share the final decision with the team. Consultative, C1. The leader consults selected individuals before making a decision themselves. Consultative, C2. The leader consults the entire group before making a decision themselves. Collaborative, G2. The group makes the decision while the leader facilitates the process. Even though this model seems straightforward, certain studies question its credibility. Strategic contingencies theory. The idea, through sheer competence and selfishness, the leader becomes irreplaceable. According to this theory, there is a very straightforward path to becoming a leader. First, individual has to become a part of some critical process within the company and must become an expert on a certain aspect of that process. Afterwards, they should acquire and defend the knowledge and skills that nobody else has, while simultaneously preventing anyone else from becoming indispensable. Strategic contingencies theory claims that a leader's intra-organizational power depends on 3 factors. Problem skills. If a leader has the skill set and expertise to resolve important issues repeatedly, then they are going to be in demand. That gives them the upper hand in all potential negotiations. Actor centrality. If a leader has a central role in the workflow of the organization, everything would stop if they leave. Uniqueness of skill. If a leader is the only one who can perform certain tasks, they become very difficult or even impossible to replace. Simply by being irreplaceable, individual becomes the leader within the organization. Final words. If our calculations are correct, 14 minutes and 47 seconds have passed since you started reading the post. We hope it was a good starting point for all your leadership-related research. The difference between leadership and management. If you cannot tell the difference between someone is leading me and someone is managing me, the situation may be more serious than you initially thought. Even though leadership and management, as well as leaders and managers, are often used as interchangeable terms, the way these 2 approaches affect team culture, workflow process, and overall results can prove to be contradictory. There are 6 key differences between leadership and management. But what does that mean in practice? How is a leader different from a manager? Not all leaders will turn out to be good managers. Similarly, not all managers will prove to be good leaders. The fact is that there are many different traits which set these 2 groups apart. Leader versus manager. Let's take a look at 2 software developer teams as an example. One is led by Mark the manager, while the other is handled by Liam the leader. Both teams consist of 5 members, experienced developers and experts in their areas. They work for the same company, in the same conditions, and on very similar projects. The only difference is the man in charge. After a couple of months, the project was finished. The upper management decided to conduct an interview with both teams. Mark, the manager. When his team was asked about Mark, they described him as rational, cool-headed problem solver. Team members said that he tended to be very goal-oriented, with a need to keep everything under control. Also, they considered him to be persistent, intelligent, analytical, and strong-willed. However, when it came to internal team collaboration, more than often, issues arose. He was issuing orders rather than explaining what the benefit of a certain move was. Additionally, he stuck to procedures religiously, not allowing any room for maneuvering or application of alternative solutions. When good ideas occurred to him, Mark would brief the team about the basics and leave them to it, expecting results without further involvement. If the idea worked out, he would present himself as a driving force behind innovation, taking all the credit in the eyes of the upper management. If the idea turned out to be a failure, Mark the manager would try to diminish the damage so he wouldn't be blamed for it. The worst thing, however, was his relationship with the team. Members often felt like he regarded them as nothing more than a resource, a replaceable set of tools. It was all about results and nothing about accomplishments. When asked if they would work for Mark again, most team members responded, "Only if I'm required to." Liam, the leader. Liam's team was a bit different. They described their team leader as inspirational, eloquent, and ingenious. Even though he has a vast knowledge of the industry, he was rather unintrusive. He relied on a constructive discussion to motivate his teammates to come up with a variety of different solutions, and then made sure that they accepted those ideas enthusiastically. Afterward, he would step out, magically reappearing to provide guidance when issues arise. During communication with the members, he was mostly quiet. He spent a lot of time just listening and occasionally asking questions, which often contained pronoun we rather than I or you. When the room became silent, he would encourage further discussion with a constructive proposal, allowing the team to steal the show once again. Sometimes, the ideas the team brought to the table were out of this world, too expensive, too risky, too unconventional. However, they were well thought out. On these occasions, Liam would say, "It makes a lot of sense in the long run. Go for it and don't bother yourselves with what might go wrong. I'll explain everything to the upper management and try to get their approval." Finally, when the project was completed, Liam received an invitation to come to the head office for personal praise. He politely refused and requested that representative of the upper management comes to the team quarters, for it was a team effort. After all, Liam respected everybody, and everybody respected Liam. When asked if they would work for Liam again, most team members responded, "I wouldn't want it any other way. Managers do things right. Leaders do the right things." Warren G. Bennis. "I am a leader, not a manager." "Are you sure? Can you ever be sure?" Well, Vineet Nair came up with a method that allows an individual to determine if they made the transition from management to leadership. It consists of 3 simple tests or questions, which should tell you where you stand on the matter. Do I create or just count value? Managers will only count value. Sometimes they will even disable those who add value by asking for frequent and unnecessary status reports. Leaders, on the other hand, will add to the value team already creates by empowering them and leading them by example. If you want to find out where you belong, answer truthfully to the question below. Your team has achieved their quarterly goals, and the pressure is suddenly off. You consider this to be mission accomplished, the base which the team can build upon. If the answer is A, you focus on the bottom line, just as a manager would do. If you've selected B, you have your eyes on the horizon and a tendency to change the status quo, just like the true leader would do. Do I influence or just have power over people? Contrary to the leader's circles of influence, which consists of followers, managers fill their circles of power with subordinates. 2. Determine if you govern the circle of influence, like a leader, or circle of power, like a manager. Simply count how many employees outside of your reporting hierarchy come to you for advice or help. The bigger the number, the greater the influence. Am I leading people or just managing work? Influencing a team to accomplish a certain set of goals is not the same as keeping them under control. Sit your teammates down for a chat and pay close attention to the way they talk about work. If they are heavily oriented on current tasks, you are managing them. If, on the other hand, they speak of vision, purpose, and long-term goals, you are well on your way to become a leader. Behaviors of non-effective leadership. Is being a manager the same as being a non-effective leader? Well, not really. Non-effective leaders constantly try to improve themselves, but despite their best efforts, they still tend to show some detrimental behavior. Behaviors like complaining and gossiping. Constantly criticizing a fellow team leader says a lot about a person's character. This habit can make you seem petty, at best, or even marking you as potentially destructive for the company's team culture. The worst-case scenario, this type of behavior has two drawbacks. Not only does it undermine leadership efforts of the leader you are criticizing, but you will most certainly earn a reputation of a gossip monger as well. In the company of followers, it's safe to say that none of these traits will help you achieve leadership status you crave for. Volatility of emotions. True leader knows how to control and express their emotions positively and productively. They have social and self-awareness to know when any given situation requires restraint, silence, or confrontation. On the contrary, if the individual is unable to understand different personalities, there will always be friction between them and their team. Even if you read all the leadership manuals out there and invest incredible energy and resources into becoming a true leader, all your efforts will fall flat if you lack empathy. Trying to be friends with everyone, being torn between being liked and being effective is a tale as old as time. So it's no wonder that many inexperienced leaders make this mistake. Having your team consider you as friend rather than their superior will make your life difficult in the long run. As a team leader, you will have to make some difficult decisions, but many of your friends can dismiss them and interpret them as personal issues. Therefore, keep your distance, be accessible, but not overly engaged, and insist on work-related topics. Personal talk can wait until working hours are over. Micromanaging. Poking and probing into everyone's daily routine, tasks, and duties can be beneficial in early stages of team forming, but at later stages this behavior becomes unacceptable. Also, micromanaging is exhausting. Not only will you overexert yourself, but your team will feel like you don't trust them, which can be a real problem. Since leadership is based on trust, after all. Final words. Even though managers and leaders essentially have the same job, their different mindsets make their approaches radically different. While the manager will make sure that their team achieves desired results, the leader will make sure that they feel happy and inspired. While doing it, managers will work hard to establish strict rules to conduct an efficient process, while leaders will break those rules if by doing so, they can improve the process. Finally, managers will satisfy with short-term success while leaders will focus only on improvement and long-term goals. How to manage and lead creative teams. Some managers believe that handling and leading a team of creatives can be very similar to taking care of preschool children. They sleep, procrastinate when they want, they play, work when they see fit, and often whine if things are not to their liking. But does this group delivers results? Oh boy, it certainly does. It is made of creatives after all. You provide them with a task and a deadline, and they take it on themselves to complete it as they see fit. All that matters is that jobs get done. Other details are not yours to be concerned about. So, what do you need to know to manage a creative team successfully? For starters, you need an answer to the question, what are they actually like? Characteristics of creative professionals. To understand what makes creative people tick, you have to get a deep insight into their personalities. Numerous psychological studies determined common characteristics of these individuals, enabling managers to understand how their creative employees engage the world. Those studies have determined that creative individuals are curious by nature, tend to take risks, have heightened emotional sensitivity, are easy to adapt to the chaotic environment, are highly self-aspired, nurture divergent thinking, are versatile, adaptable, and open to new ideas. All of these traits are clear advantages in the workplace. Curiosity sparks new ideas. Risk-taking enables them to tackle difficult problems quickly. Empathy they feel for fellow creative will enable them to work well in groups, but only if other members share their pain. Ability to embrace the chaos will allow them to perform in any surroundings. Self-aspiration will drive them forward. Thinking out of the box will result in unique solutions. Finally, creative personality of these individuals provides the company with indispensable employees capable of making meaningful contributions. Leading creative teams. Leading creatives is not the same as managing them. To properly lead your creative team, you have to be influential, but not intrusive. Leadership has to be apparent. Management has to be done incognito. It is all in the eyes of the beholder. All creative work is subjected to opinions that differ depending on an individual. From time to time, you will receive a design, a text, or sketch you are not fond of. Don't let your personal preference be the reason for its dismissal. Run it through the test to if performs well and make results public. In his article published in Forbes magazine, Victor Lippman recalled that nationwide focus group testing which proved that the insurance commercial he deemed ridiculous was actually enjoyed by the public. It ran for years to come and became the most successful commercial ever, as well as foundation for further marketing activities. Meaningful praise over extra money. Monetary reward can easily motivate employees that are performing mundane tasks they have no personal connection to. If they fold more boxes per hour than it's anticipated, they should be rewarded accordingly with bonuses. If morale ever drops, it can be uplifted once again with a small intensive. Creative employees, on the other hand, invest themselves in their work and create it through the reflection of their preferences. Even though they seem like though and independent individuals, the truth is that they are sensitive about their creations. Therefore, increasing bonus is not as nearly as effective as publicly or privately depends on preferences, praising them for a job well done. Creatives, usually, aren't leaders. They require guidance and thrive by having a leadership pillar to lean onto. However, by putting them in the position of power, one of two things can happen. They never establish authority and become stretched between newly found responsibility and maintaining a positive relationship with former teammates and friends. They go to the other extreme and become dictatorial. Oligarchs responsible for tension and stress within the team. Profile of a good leader and a profile of a creative person are very different. According to research, the best creatives exhibit many characteristics that prevent them from being effective leaders. They are rebellious, antisocial, self-centered, and the only time they will stick their neck out is if the comrade is in distress. Disclaimer: there are rare cases when your top creative can become a leader and take on a managerial position. However, in those cases, you must ask yourself, do I want my top creative man to waste his time on organizational issues, or should I allow him to focus on what he does best? Managing creative teams. Nobody likes being managed, especially not creatives. Therefore, if you need to control their work, do it delicately and discreetly. No micromanagement. This is a no-go from the start. The best way to keep your creatives under some, if any, sort of control is to provide a general roadmap and let them figure out how they want to travel it. However, 2. Keep their imagination from running wild. Develop a style parameter, a set of technical specifications, deadline policies, and style guides. No matter how artsy your designers are, they have to remember one rule: they are not creating art for the sake of art itself, but as for the sake of your business. A creative project can go off the track easily, and when it does, it needs to be reeled in before it gets derailed completely. Finally, allow your creatives to work remotely or off hours. Refrain yourself from asking them where they were, what were they doing, or how they did what they did. Not all failure is the failure. Innovation comes from risk, uncertainty, and experimentation. If something is known to work, it isn't creative. Simple as that. If your creatives try something new and fail, do not scold them. Sit them down and praise their gutsy attempt. They had your business in mind after all. Experiment with every piece of their work. If 1 in 10 proves to deliver results, you can consider yourself extremely lucky. And yes, trials and tests do cost money, but they are less expensive than not innovating at all. Creative individuals work best with not-so-creative teammates, like having two star players, having a couple of excellent creatives in the same team can bring more harm than good. They will either constantly compete, either debate and brainstorm for hours, or, as the worst-case scenario, ignore each other completely. Therefore, it would be ideal to surround your star creative with team members that complement their abilities. The solution, then, is to support your creatives with colleagues who are too conventional to challenge their ideas, but unconventional enough to collaborate with them. These colleagues will need to pay attention to details, mundane executional processes, and do the dirty work. Tomas Chamorro per music. Provide them only with meaningful and intuitive work. Do not trap your creatives into mundane, non-creative tasks. They do their best work when they are inspired, and nothing breeds inspiration like doing something which has personal meaning. Contrary to them, some employees only care about the paycheck, and clocking out, those are the ones you should delegate. Meaningless routine work too. Be wary of over-justification effect. Research has shown that tasks which are important for an individual tend to diminish engagement once the individual starts receiving the external reward. And yes, by external reward we mean money. To clarify, let's say that your job is a project manager at the IT company, but your hobby is cooking. You like your job, it provides you with the means to survive after all, but you love your hobby, even though you earn nothing while doing it. Well, if you ever leave your position at IT company and start working as a cook, over-justification effect will occur. You will lose motivation, and the thing you once loved will become nothing more than the job. This goes double for creatives. They will require money to buy food, but they will drive on your genuine feedback and sense of accomplishment, especially if they feel their work is important. The most important quality, the one that is most consistently present in all creative individuals, is the ability to enjoy the process of creation for its own sake. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Give them creative and uncreative workspace. If your creatives are required to come to the office every day, the worst thing you can do is confine them to the couple of square feet, cubicle equipped with nothing but essential tools like a computer and post-it notes. Not to mention that different colors of workspace can influence your employees in different ways. Even though many leading companies of the world have already realized that old-fashioned cubicles are not the way to go is supposed to be like. As far as creatives are concerned, you need to remember 3 things. They need the inspiration to create. Designate one room on your premises and allow your creative team to turn it into mood room, basically a mood board with walls and chairs. Let them spend unproductive moments there, as it can help inspiration to kick in. They cannot create all the time or during the given time. Additionally to the mood room, create a rec room and allow your team to blow off some steam. It is of utmost importance to separate the two. In the mood room, creatives should be productive. In the break room, they most definitely shouldn't. To create, they have to detach themselves from the surroundings. If a creative asks to work from home, let them. If they decide to, put headphones on, or pick up a laptop and move to more confined and private space, they most certainly have a good reason to do so. Creatives' tendency to interact heavily with colleagues when searching for inspiration is rivaled only by their need to seclude themselves when the time for idea realization comes. To wrap things up, they may be difficult, they may require special treatment, and you may be losing your mind over their work ethic, but your creatives are what propels your business forward. Even though handling them may seem like a pain, remember that the key lies in trust and very, very long leash. If you provide them with positive company culture and proper working conditions, they will repay you with excellent work and cutting-edge solutions without breaking a sweat. Team management skills, challenges, and mindset. When you embark on the 5-step journey to becoming a good team leader, having the right attitude is not enough. Even if you are an indispensable team member with lots of knowledge, the New leadership role is challenging. We asked 10 experienced team leaders, what skills do new leaders need? What challenges do new leaders face on a daily basis? What mindset do new leaders need to inspire and motivate their team? Here's their advice. Calamity is the foundation for rational decisions. Patience, the ability to see the big picture, good judgment of character, and keen observational skills are just some of the characteristics that make a good leader. In my experience, the best type of team leader is the one who is always calm in the face of panic. A team leader needs to be able to calmly assess a situation, know his team members' strengths, and properly delegate work to get the job done. Leading a team means having a basic understanding of each job, but not necessarily being an expert in each, so it is up to the leader to understand and respect the responsibilities of each team member. Never be too hard on a teammate and respect their workspace. The team leader should always ask questions to ensure quality, but shouldn't overrule an expert developer on development decisions, as they will lose self-confidence and respect for their superior. Take interest into your team's personal preferences. Take the time to get to know your team. Figure out what drives them, what motivates them, and how they prefer to communicate. As the leader of the solutions team, I think that simple communication is not enough. You have to get familiar with your team's motivations and dreams. Never underestimate the power of a catch-up over coffee. It takes 15 minutes to sit down with one of your employees and understand what is happening in their world. This simple hack will not only enable you to keep your team motivated, but you will notice issues before they arise as well. Get to know your team inside out on both a professional and personal level. You won't regret it. Make right, not popular decisions. Popular decisions are not necessarily the best ones. True leaders will make the tough call, even when their decisions are heavily frowned upon. Employees respect owners who are willing to make unpopular decisions, especially when they can explain why they are making them. The leader shouldn't strive for the safest, but for the best thinking in the organization. It is fine to avoid unnecessary risks in business, but if the owner always takes the safest route, they are likely to lose good employees and hold on to only those who are risk-averse. Involving the staff in critical decisions, seeking a variety of inputs, and making the best decision, even if it's not the safest one, will grow the respect of the team. Don't doubt yourself. A solid leader needs a set of good problem-solving skills, the ability to define tasks and set clear goals for their team. Also, they provide clear vision and work their pants off for the team. However, confidence is the key prerequisite for a successful leader. Even though it sounds basic, always do what you think is right. I've seen many leaders lie and play politics for personal gain, especially in projects where there's so much room for error and interpretation. I've seen leaders blatantly make a wrong decision that cost companies money. I have personally been asked to make decisions that would be detrimental to a project. Once, I even gave in and ended up on the receiving end of that mistake. In the end, do what you think is right, because you probably are. I made the mistake of publicly scolding team members when they made repetitive mistakes or when it resulted in unexpected issues. Now my experience has taught me that one-on-one meetings always end in mutual respect and understanding. Share the mistakes you've made. Lecturing someone publicly is never a good move. Being a good leader means treating your team the way you'd like to be treated. Your job as a manager is to give your team everything they need to be successful, which means boosting their confidence too. Instead of just telling someone how to set up an email server, explain to them why they should do it a certain way. Talk about the time when you set it up wrong. Sharing your mistakes not only builds rapport, it also helps you build invaluable experience and triumph in the IT world. Learn from previous mistakes. Every mistake is a valuable lesson in disguise. Team leaders become successful only once they become fully aware of what ineffective team leading is. That way they can learn both from their own mistakes as well as mistakes of their previous bosses, becoming better leaders in the process. One of the mistakes I made was assuming that my team members we're adequately adapting to our company culture and atmosphere. After too short time, I felt as though I may have overwhelmed them with multiple tasks and challenges without checking to see how comfortable they were. From that experience, I learned that it's better to ask and check with your team members about how familiar and comfortable they are with what they are doing, instead of only making assumptions. Communicate carefully. It doesn't matter if your team is dispersed across the globe. A true leader makes members feel like they are working right next to one another. Members need to respect the leader, but only if the leader maintains a delicate balance of humility and authority. Listening to your employees is essential, especially when you aren't seeing them face to face, which is why I've told my team not to hesitate to reach out to me anytime, night or day. Also, we have a weekly check-in to discuss current projects as well as any concerns they might have. However, communicating solely via text can be a challenge if you don't express yourself properly. On one specific occasion, I responded in a hurry and without thinking through what I wrote, and the message came across as a demand rather than a request. Consequently, I've learned that it's always better to pause and reread before hitting send. Maybe include a well-placed emoji, GIF, or funny meme. It won't hurt if you want to lighten the tone. Being an expert doesn't make you a leader. The most important skill a tech industry leader needs to have is to be an excellent engineer with an ability to delegate. Seniority of tech leaders derives directly from technical excellence. However, this can cause many problems. For example, if an exciting project or problem is brought to leaders' attention, their inner engineer can take over. They will immerse themselves into the task at hand, forgetting that each hour spent on the problem is an hour they don't spend taking care of the team. This kind of behavior can send the message that the members' contribution don't matter and that they are here to handle the tasks which team leaders won't do themselves. It is necessary to include your team in every endeavor. Otherwise, you are destined to fail as a leader. Adjust your approach to suit each member. Each leader who takes on a new team should take some time to get to know each member as an individual. When I was a new team leader, I was more directive when delegating and assigning tasks. However, I quickly learned that this approach is not effective in the long run. My philosophy now is to hire great people and create an environment which allows them to thrive. As a leader, you should be there to remove barriers, provide support and encouragement, and then just get out of your team's way. All employees desire to be appreciated for the personal value they bring. Since everyone is different, ask them how they like to be recognized. Some would prefer under the radar, sincere emails, while others prefer loud and clear public displays. By respecting their wishes, you will provide them with the recognition they crave and build mutual trust. True team leaders are all-rounders. Being a good team leader is like solving a puzzle. To get a proper effect, a lot of smaller pieces need to fit in. If you want people to follow you, they need to be fully aware that you are competent for the job at hand. Once you've established yourself as an expert, do not let it go to your head. Build healthy, two-way relationships with your teammates and encourage open communication as well as a constant exchange of ideas. Take your time, get to know all members of your team, and get an insight into their strengths and weaknesses. Afterwards, delegate work accordingly. Delegating adequate tasks says two things. First, I know your strengths and I want you to use them to the fullest. And second, I know your weaknesses and I will not let you come out of your comfort zone. Finally, a true leader emerges in the state of urgency and uncertainty. When the times are tough, your team will come to you for your guidance. Do not let them down.